Africa, the cradle of civilization, the land of gold, diamonds, oil, and breathtaking landscapes. A continent home to over 1.4 billion people, rich in talent, culture, and ambition. Yet, despite all of this, Africa remains economically shackled, politically sidelined, and financially drained. But why? Why does Ghana, a country with vast natural wealth, still struggle with power outage? Why do schools in Kenya and Nigeria lack books while billions go missing in government accounts? Why do African leaders need foreign approval just to travel? And why, after centuries of struggle, does Africa still find itself begging for a seat at the global table? This isn't just bad luck. This isn't just bad luck. It is by design. This documentary exposes how energy dependency, broken education systems, financial corruption, and global diplomatic imbalances keep Africa logged in a cycle of extraction and underdevelopment, and what must be done to break greed. Africa produces energy but can't use it. Africa is one of the most resource-rich continents on Earth, yet over 600 million Africans live without electricity. Nigeria, Angola, and Algeria export millions of barrels of oil, yet suffer fuel and electricity shortages. Ghana has hydro and natural gas reserves, but still depends on the Turkish-owned floating power plants, which is the partnership, for a significant portion of its electricity. South Africa, despite its coal reserves, experienced power outages lasting up to 16 hours daily. Now, historically, energy infrastructure in Africa was designed to serve colonial economies, not the local population. Railways, ports, and electricity grids were built to extract resources efficiently, not to provide power to African households. Even after independence, most power stations and grids remained under foreign control. New agreements such as IMF's imposed privatization in the 1980s and 1990s kept energy sectors dominated by Western companies. In Nigeria, businesses spend nearly half their revenue on fuel for private generators. In South Africa, power cuts cost the economy billions in lost productivity. In Ghana, industries struggle to operate, leading to job losses and increased production control. Africa loses a significant portion of its GDP annually due to energy shortages, making industrialization nearly impossible. So, how do we break the cycle? Well, African governments must invest in local energy production, such as solar and hydropower, right? Remove monopoly controlled by foreign entities, prioritize intra-African electricity trade, reliance on Europe and Asia. Now, let's talk about Africa's education system. Is it designed to keep Africa behind? Because a continent where schools exist but learning doesn't happen, does that make sense to you? Africa has one of the youngest populations in the world, yet its education system remains underfunded, undercrowded, and outdated. Sub-Saharan Africa has the highest rate of out-of-school children in the world. In Ghana, the free senior high school policy is underfunded, leading to teacher shortages and poor infrastructure. Kenya's competency-based curriculum was introduced without proper training, leaving schools struggling to adapt. Nigeria's university system frequently faces strikes due to unpaid salaries, depriving students of their education for months. So let's talk about the history, okay? Under British and French rule, education was designed to create clerks, soldiers, and low-level workers, not engineers, scientists, or industry leaders. Critical thinking and innovation was discouraged. Schools produced administrative workers instead of professionals. Investments in research and technology was minimized. Now, what is the real impact of Africa's education crisis? Well, there's brain drain, which has over 30% of Africa's education or Africa's university-trained professionals move to Europe and North America annually. There's also foreign dependency, where Africa spends billions importing foreign doctors, engineers, and IT specialists. There's also slow economic growth, where without an educated workforce, Africa remains stuck in exporting raw materials instead of developing advanced industries. So, what is the path forward? Well, let's invest in STEM education instead of colonial-era humanity-based curriculum. We can also foster public-private partnerships to modernize learning environments, and also reform curricula to emphasize skills, innovation, and self-sufficiency. Next, let's look at Africa Africa's financial chain? Who really controls the money, right? See, Africa generates a lot of wealth, but who actually owns it? Over 200 million, I repeat, over 200 million remains unaccounted for at the Bank of Ghana, raising questions about financial mismanagement. Corruption siphons billions while public service collapses. Africa loses nearly $90 billion annually to illicit financial flows, and 14 African countries using the CFA franc still have their reserves held in France, limiting their financial sovereignty. So what is the real cost of the financial instability in Africa? Well, let's look in Ghana, right? In Ghana, there's missing funds affecting schools and hospital budget. In Nigeria, there's mismanagement of oil revenue resulting in fuel shortages. In Kenya, debt crisis leads to heavier tax burdens on citizens. So how do we break the financial chain? We can strengthen accountability laws to prevent mismanagement, break dependence on foreign-controlled financial institutions, redirect national wealth towards local industries rather than offshore accounts, right? Now, after these suggestions, will Africa finally take control? Or would we even take a step, right? Africa is rich, yet its people remain poor. Its goals fail while Western institutions benefit from African talent. Its leaders are undermined while foreign interests dictate policy. Will Africa take control, or will history repeat itself? Comment down below, share your thoughts on this video, and subscribe for more in-depth analysis.